In ancient Chinese legend, Yu the Great emerged as the hero who stood up during the era of rampant floods. He served as the messenger between humanity and nature, and was the pivotal figure in establishing the imperial system. Often depicted as possessing physical strength, wisdom, and moral virtue, he traversed rivers and mountains, measured landscapes, and battled the floods with sweat and courage. He not only redirected the course of water but also forged a new order among tribes after controlling the floods. In traditional histories and folk tales, Yu bore the surname Si and was a representative figure of the Xiahou clan. Later generations revered him as Emperor Yu or Great Yu, viewing him as the emblem of the Xia dynasty's founding. His legend transcends mere myth, enduring for millennia in Chinese culture as a symbol of royal legitimacy, flood control wisdom, and national spirit. In an era of relentless floods and cosmic upheaval, Yu's birth seemed like the prelude to a myth. In numerous local legends, he was born at a place called Stone Neck. Some accounts describe Stone Neck as a massive rock fault in a mountain gorge, with rivers flowing beneath it and rocks arching around its sides. The interplay of mountain stones, rushing water, and wind whistling through the cliffs wove a distinct and profound connection between him and the natural landscape from the very beginning. Legend recounts that when his mother, Xiui, carried him, the heavens displayed extraordinary signs. Clouds drifted like ram's horns, divine light flickered, and mountains split open as if welcoming the arrival of new life. She retreated to the mountains for quiet rest until the day a crevice opened in the rock, and the child emerged. This is the legendary scene of Great Yu's birth. In some regions, this origin story is dramatized with profound ritualism. Springs gush from the mountain's fissure, mist rises, and 100 birds sing. Regarding the location of Stone Nyo, different records offer multiple accounts. Some say it lies in Beichuan, Sichuan. Others point to Wenchuan or its surrounding mountains. Still others suggest Guangzhou or Chang territories. Which is the true Stone Nyo remains unverified. We only know that in legends and folk traditions, numerous mountains and rivers claim connections to Stone Nyo through names like Yu's hometown, Yu's cave, or Yu's footprints. Though ancient texts offer scant details of Yu's youth, numerous legends paint a vivid portrait of a boy conversing with nature. Several recurring scenes emerge. In his childhood, he often wandered alone through mountain valleys and streams, chasing rivers and observing the flow patterns between aquatic plants and rock crevices. He would crouch by the stream, watching the ripples gently undulate, or climb to mountain peaks to survey the winding river courses. These journeys were both expressions of a child's curiosity and his early connection with water. During times of overflowing streams and seasonal floods, he would approach the disaster zones, witnessing villages submerged, fields destroyed, and people weeping. Legend has it he occasionally helped repair dikes and clear ditches, lending small but vital aid to households besieged by floodwaters. His awareness of water's destructive power and the suffering it brings quietly took root through these minor experiences. Some tales suggest he recognized the limitations of his father's failed flood control methods even as a youth. He pondered, if one merely builds dams to block water, the day will come when the water breaks through the dikes. But if channels were dug to guide the water's flow outward, the results might be far better. Such reasoning may be the wise conception later generations attributed to him through legend. Even in his youth, he displayed endurance, perseverance, and a sense of duty. No matter the storms, mountain hazards, or raging currents, as long as his conviction held firm, he never retreated. Legend recounts how he once stood alone through a mountain storm, watching over the water and the levee, observing the water's momentum and recording the sound of the flowing stream. He worked alongside villagers to repair collapsed embankments and redirect currents during torrential downpours, mitigating flood damage. Though unverifiable, these vignettes form the image of the youth Yu, walking with the mountains and rivers in our minds. He was not born a ruler but gradually shaped, tempered, and propelled toward his destiny by nature and adversity. Floodwaters flowed relentlessly and endlessly, disasters repeatedly ravaging the Central Plains. Tribes across the land began to feel the limits of survival. Crops drowned, roads washed away, populations displaced. Amid such crisis, old governance methods proved utterly inadequate. People began seeking a new force, someone who could use wisdom and courage to contain the floodwaters and channel the currents. After Gunn's repeated failures in flood control, legend holds that the voices within the court and among the tribes grew urgent. Someone must continue this battle against the waters. It was then that you stepped onto the stage. You was not a savior who appeared out of thin air. He was the man summoned by the crisis and chosen by the people's hopes. Legend holds that Yao or Shun entrusted you with the monumental task of flood control. This was not merely a transfer of power, but a profound entrustment of responsibility. He inherited his father's unfinished project, shouldering the weighty burden of bringing the ancient floods to an end. He understood that mere dike building could no longer suffice. Instead, he sought to fundamentally alter the course and pathways of the waters. He did not depart hastily but made thorough preparations. Legend has it that he invited virtuous ministers such as Ho Ji, Gao Yao, and Bo Yi to participate in discussions on the layout of mountains, rivers, and waterways. He extensively surveyed the terrain, measured elevations, and examined the directions of tributaries. Considering the elevation variations, mountain barriers, and river flows, he viewed the landscape as a unified whole, treating the central plains as a network of waterways. He preemptively mapped out the connecting routes between main and tributary channels. Thus, he led a large workforce to begin carving through mountains and narrow passes, dredging rivers, digging branch canals, and opening mountain passes to enable swift water diversion. He established benchmarks, measuring rods, and marker posts along the routes, leaving reference lines for river planning. He traversed gorges, scaled mountain ridges, and trekked across riverbanks. In the most challenging terrain, he used manpower to split mountains, break rocks, and carve channels for incoming water. Where silt blocked river sections, he led teams to clear obstructions and dredge riverbeds. At confluences of tributaries, he established diversion channels to provide outlets for floodwaters. Legend recounts that you passed his home 3 times during his flood control efforts without entering. When he traversed the section near his hometown, he saw his wife, children, and home, yet had no time to linger. He silently waved and continued his journey. This sacrifice of family and self became the archetypal image later generations praised him for. Another account states that when passing by his young sons weeping, he pressed onward with heavy heart, for the nation's flood crisis demanded his attention. It was this very resolve, fearlessness, and perseverance that earned him the respect and allegiance of more and more tribes. During this period, his route stretched from west to east, south to north, traversing nearly every mountain and river. He cut through mountains, channeled rivers into systems, cleared tributaries, and optimized the water network. Flood-prone areas gradually became channeled and diverted. He sought to integrate fragmented local water systems into a unified circulation network. His vision extended beyond individual rivers, viewing entire flood-stricken regions as interconnected aquatic ecosystems. This marked his evolution from a mere manager to a coordinator and planner. Rather than treating localized floods as isolated problems, he planned waterways between mountains and rivers, designing channels through undulating terrain. He ensured mountains did not obstruct rivers and rivers found their paths home. It was during this long, arduous process of water management that you truly became the concentrated force against floods, the interpreter and orchestrator of mountains, rivers, and streams. After prolonged struggle, the river channels gradually cleared, and the floods began to recede. Mountains and rivers slowly restored their order, and fields gradually revealed their contours. At that time, you himself became the most brilliant light amidst the flood disaster. Yu's engineering efforts evolved from narrow trials to comprehensive connectivity. The main channels were connected, tributaries linked together, and multiple pivotal canal systems emerged, preventing floods from spreading unchecked. He guided accumulated water into the sides of the river channels, diverting flood peaks, allowing the waters to bypass, converge, and flow into the sea. Along the paths he dredged and cleared, silt was removed, obstructing rocks were cleared away, and the riverbeds became unimpeded. As the waterways were tamed, low-lying areas on the plains began to drain, accumulated silt was cleared, and farmland gradually came back to life. Villages along the riverbanks recovered from ruins, irrigation channels were restored, and fish and shrimp returned to the rivers. People returned to their homes and fields were cultivated once more. All this was the echo of the flood being conquered. The triumph over the waters was not merely a physical achievement but also a psychological one. Hugh the Great's fame spread rapidly. He was no longer a hero confined to a single tribe but a leader capable of influencing many tribes and regions. Chiefs and tribal leaders from numerous areas spontaneously came to pay tribute and seek his guidance. They witnessed the floodwaters controlled and the land gradually restored to peace, and they believed that only through united strength could order be maintained. In this atmosphere, you gained widespread support among the tribes. Revered as the savior and the king of flood control, his prestige and trust became the foundation for his ascent to kingship. According to traditional accounts, Emperor Shun, recognizing Yu's achievements in flood control, abdicated the throne to him. The feudal lords then paid tribute to Yu, establishing a new political order. Beyond hydraulic engineering, Yu implemented institutional reforms. After subduing the floods, he established regional boundaries based on the entire realm, delineating the 9 provinces. Each province was assigned distinct tribute obligations according to its geography, resources, and produce. This institutional design enabled resource allocation based on need, fostered tribal participation, and extended central authority. Not only that, he also standardized the tribute system. Based on the varying levels of wealth, topography, and resource capacity across regions, he stipulated the types and quantities of goods each area was required to contribute. This differentiated tribute system ensured that the massive flood control operations were no longer left without material support, as each district bore its share of responsibility. Ancient texts also document a hierarchical system of tribute zones, Dianfu, Hofu, Suefu, and Yaofu, revealing Yu's attempt to differentiate administrative oversight and tribute obligations based on spatial proximity. Thus, tribes near the central core bore heavier duties, while distant frontiers enjoyed relative leniency, though still bound by law. Through these institutional designs integrated with hydraulic engineering, Yu not only achieved flood control through engineering feats but also established the preliminary framework of royal authority within the administrative structure. In legend, Yu's flood control efforts were aided by numerous mythical forces. Divine beasts like the Yinglong dragon and sacred turtles were often depicted assisting in carving mountains and diverting waters. Supernatural objects, divine steps, and miraculous feats frequently appear in the tales, adding layers of legend. Many regions also preserve legends like Yu chisels the Dragon Gate and fish transforming at the Dragon Gate, symbolizing breakthroughs in waterways and the establishment of order. From a modern perspective, people attempt to map reality onto these legends. Recent geological research suggests the Yellow River Basin may indeed have experienced large-scale flood events in ancient times, with certain sedimentary strata and flood scour marks potentially corresponding to the legendary deluge. Some scholars also suggest that natural factors like climate shifts, improved hydrology, and vegetation recovery contributed to the gradual easing of floods. Thus, the successful flood control narrative represents both the climactic battle between the legendary hero and nature, and an ancient cultural tapestry weaving historical memory, environmental change, ethnic migration, and governance experience into mythical storytelling. Following the triumph over the floods, order began to prevail across the land. Waterways gradually reopened and the people found peace. Yu the Great's fame spread among the tribes, his achievements resonating not only in engineering terms but also creating seismic shifts within the socio-political fabric. It was precisely at this juncture that concepts regarding kingship, institutional frameworks, and tribal order began to take shape. According to traditional legend, Emperor Shun, recognizing Yu's merit in flood control, bestowed the realm upon him through abdication. This abdication served both as a political ritual and a symbol of legitimacy. The virtuous inherit the realm, exchanging merit for position. Through this process, Yu's rule was imbued with the aura of heavenly mandate. As various tribes aligned and paid tribute, Yu gradually came to be revered by feudal lords as a king. He was no longer merely a flood controller but evolved into a monarch embodying both engineering achievements and political authority. A ruling structure centered on the Xia dynasty and the Xiahou clan thus took shape. From then on, he possessed a symbolic title of status and established hierarchical relationships with all parties. However, the shift from abdication to hereditary succession marked a pivotal transition. While tribal or confederate leadership had previously relied more on virtue and selecting the capable, Yu Sun-chi ascended after his father's reign, gradually tilting the throne toward familial bloodline inheritance, transforming from a system of appointing the capable to a family-based dynasty. Thus, the Xia dynasty became one of the legendary dynasties in Chinese history to pioneer hereditary kingship. To sustain flood control achievements and social order, Yu implemented significant institutional arrangements. The most renowned was the 9 provinces system, documented in the Book of Documents. Yu divided the realm into 9 regions based on geography, soil conditions, resources, and mountain river networks, assigning each province distinct tribute standards and governance obligations. These tribute systems not only provided material support for subsequent regimes but also served as institutional channels for various tribes to fulfill their obligations and participate in state affairs. Through territorial demarcation and tribute collection, Yu established institutional ties between the originally dispersed tribes and city-states and his central core. Within this framework, tribes closer to the capital often bore heavier tribute burdens and obligations, while those in remote border regions might be granted lighter responsibilities. This differential system helped maintain the central government's mobilization capacity over diverse territories with poor transportation infrastructure. Additionally, some ancient texts mention hierarchical service systems and labor obligations, such as Ho Fu, Sui Fu, and Yao Fu, designed to distinguish the institutional status and duty levels of different regions and tribes. Matters like labor service, conscription, transportation, and tribute likely fell within this hierarchical framework. After establishing his royal title, Yu required a political organizational system for daily governance. Though historical records offer limited details, legends and later appendices provide insights. At the central level, he likely established several categories of officials: those overseeing agriculture, transportation, river regulation, and tribute distribution; those managing rituals, sacrifices, and institutional protocols; and those supervising oversight, patrolling waterways, borders, and military units. At the local level, tribal chieftains and regional leaders likely served as local administrators or feudal lords, bearing responsibilities for local governance, military affairs, and tax collection. While enjoying considerable autonomy within their territories, they were obligated to pay tribute to the Xia royal court, obey its directives, and provide military support. Official positions may have hierarchical distinctions such as Zheng, Deng, and Gong. Zheng officials handled major affairs, decision-making, and core responsibilities. Gong officials managed technical tasks, inspections, and specific implementations. In water management, specialized departments may have been established to oversee river channels, hydraulic engineering, embankment construction, and dredging. These functions proved particularly crucial during Yu's flood control efforts and subsequent river maintenance. Although Yu established the initial governance framework for the Xia dynasty, the system remained nascent and faced significant limitations and challenges. Local factions and tribal autonomy remained strong, limiting the central government's effective control over distant regions. The establishment of official positions and institutional rules was immature, with unclear provisions and ambiguous boundaries of authority and responsibility. The establishment of a hereditary system was prone to triggering succession disputes, internal tribal competition, and power conflicts. The symbolic weight of the royal title often far exceeded its actual authority, with power constrained in practice by geography, transportation, and ethnic structures. After enduring prolonged flood control efforts and establishing royal authority and systems, Yu entered the twilight of his reign. This marked the culmination of his lifelong dedication to safeguarding the land and rivers, while simultaneously building tension around the dynasty's succession. Following the successful flood control, the realm was initially stabilized, yet rivers required maintenance, embankments needed upkeep, and territories demanded inspection. Legend recounts that Yu never ceased his efforts in his later years, continuing to tour the land, overseeing mountains, rivers, water systems, and local affairs to ensure his flood control projects did not deteriorate through neglect. Regarding his eastern tour, ancient texts and folk tales intertwine. He journeyed eastward to the Mount Quaiji region, where he is said to have inspected waterways, surveyed landscapes, and presided over ceremonies. Many legends link Mount Quaiji to his final years, claiming he either overworked himself there or passed away, leading to the phrase, "he collapsed at Mount Quiji." During this Eastern tour, though his health may have been declining, he persisted in personally inspecting projects and water conditions. Where remote river sections faced hazards like shifting obstacles, cracked embankments, or diverted tributaries, he ordered reinforcements, rerouting, or dredging. Though lacking his former physical vigor, he maintained royal authority and hydraulic order through prestige and experience. Legend holds that Yu passed away, an ancient term for a monarch's death, while inspecting the Huiji region. This account appears in numerous legends and local chronicles. Huiji thus became symbolic of the final chapter in Yu the Great's life, the last station connecting him to the landscape, the floods, and the realm. Regarding his burial, multiple accounts exist. Some claim he was interred on Mount Huiji, while others cite sites housing the Great Yu Mausoleum or Great Yu Temple, erected to honor his flood control achievements and character. Regardless of the specific location, his burial ground acquired sacred significance in traditional culture, becoming a place where later generations venerated the flood hero and commemorated his legacy. His passing also brought the intertwined fate of the dynasty and flood control to a critical juncture. Questions of succession, inheritance, and legitimacy demanded answers.